I'm Eric Adams, and I am the Quizbowl coach here at Eastside High School, and we are very much looking forward to having you come and compete next Saturday on November 6th at our school. And what I decided that I would do is to make a simulated round of Quizbowl. This is my Greek class. Everybody say hello.
Hello.
And so you can see exactly the mechanics of the game, how it all works, etc. First thing that you'll notice is that when you compete in your matches, there will be two sets of desks that all have on top of them these buzzer systems, or what we call tabletop buzzers. When you hit the buzzer, obviously, knowing the answer or thinking that you know the answer, all you have to do is you hit it, it makes a sound, and as you can see, it lights up. Some of you, however, will be with different kinds of buzzers that instead of, as what we call tabletop buzzers, are going to have the kind that you hold in your hand that are attached to a string or a wire that looks like this. And so you'll hold it and you'll buzz it, and it will have the same sort of effect that what obviously these do. Here's one with a full wire that I can show you. That is right here. And so, here, I'll go ahead and put this, there you are, so we'll keep it there. Now, the way that the game is going to begin is that whoever is going to be your reader, and you don't have to have 5 players on each side. You can have as few as 1 player. But in the state of Georgia, we have a standard 5-team composition of players playing at one time. But nationally, it's usually 4 players who do it. Now, what will happen is at the beginning of the round, you will all come in, have your seat, and the scorekeeper, which will be the person next to the reader of the questions, which for this simulated round is going to be me, will then take each of your names. And when you give those the names, they'll be keeping track of how well you do individually. Then what will happen is that as the game is going to begin, you will most likely have a buzzer check to make sure that your buzzer works. And so if we start right here with player number 5, go ahead, red 5, red 4, red 3, red 2, red 1. And then we'll move over here to the green side, and you'll be recognized when you buzz in by, again, your color and your number. Go ahead. Green 5, green 4, green 3, green 2, and green 1. And that means that all the buzzers work. Everybody should be ready to go. Now, there are 2 types of questions that the teams will be playing. One type is called a toss-up. And in the toss-up, you play as an individual. So as I begin to read the question, you are not talking to your teammates. Instead, you are listening intently. And the point at which you think that you know the answer, you go ahead and you buzz in. The person will stop reading the question and will recognize you by your color and number. Make sure that you don't blurt out the answer without you being the one who has buzzed in. Because if you blurt out the answer and you are not the one that is buzzed in, you automatically lose opportunity for your team. Because if an individual on your team answers incorrectly on the toss-up, then that means that the whole team doesn't have another shot at trying to get the answer. Now, the questions are going to be written such that at the start of the question, it should be clear as to what the answer is. Is it a person, is it a place, or is it an event, or anything of that nature? But as the clues are read, they will descend in difficulty to where the very last clue is going to be the most easy and identifiable. And so let's go ahead and play a simulated round, and I'll be interrupting from time to time, hopefully not too many minutes, and obviously interjecting. Now, as I'm reading a toss-up, when the toss-up is completed read, you will have a total of 5 seconds to buzz in if somebody has not done so already. I'm reading some middle school questions. These are all seniors, and so they might have the ability to understand what the question is early and get it right. But nevertheless, once you get to the end of the question, you have 5 seconds. Time, at which point the question goes dead and you go to the next toss-up. So let's go ahead and read toss-up number 1. Is everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
Toss-up number 1. In this book, Elizabeth Lavenza is murdered by a creation of her adopted brother, Victor. What do you have? Red 3.
Frankenstein.
It is Frankenstein. Now, obviously, she got that rather early, which is good for her team, but if I had gotten all the way to the end, it would have said, for 10 points, name this book by Mary Shelley, whose title character is the doctor, not the monster, which is put together by dead people and brought to life. And so, not by dead people, but by parts of dead people, and then brought to life. But she got Frankenstein. Now, since her team has gotten that toss-up, they are now going to be awarded a bonus. Bonuses are 3 questions, not asked all at one time, but each of those questions worth 10 points. Now, usually the team is going to have a designated captain. So I should have already figured out before the match begins as to who the captain was. Who are your captain? Indeed it is. It is the young woman who got the question right. Over here, who is your captain? All right, so they're pointing here at the end. I would suggest that you put your captain probably in the middle, like what we see with Elizabeth, because obviously they will be able to talk with your teammates on bonuses. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. Now on bonuses, once the bonus is read, they will have 5 seconds to respond. And on the 4th second, I, the reader, will prompt you, say, Captain, what is your answer? The captain doesn't have to be the one to give the answer. Instead, the captain can point at anybody on their team and say, designate, and they can be the one to give the answer instead of the captain, if the captain can't quite hear what they're saying, or things like that. Now, another thing, let me put it like this is not how y'all should play. Now, since this is a simulation, but I would advise that everybody on the team have some paper and something with which you can write so that you can be jotting down things and so forth and so on. Now, if they get the question of the bonus wrong, it will, quote, bounce back to the other side. You must, within the bounce back, give the answer within 2 to 3 seconds. So the team that gets the first shot, which was the one that got the toss-up, they get 5 seconds to give their answer, but once it bounces to the other side, it needs to be within 2 to 3 seconds, something like that. Your bonus to Team Red. A micron is 1/1,000,000th of this unit that measures distance, for 10 points each. This SI base unit of length is equal to a bit more than a yard.
Meter.
That is correct. Now, she automatically knew the answer and said it, but all the team could have, and I would dare say should have, been discussing with themselves to make sure that that is the correct answer. So you're correct. Part 2. Originally, the meter was defined as 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the North Pole to this line marking the circumference of the Earth.
Equator.
That is correct. And so this time you saw the team was working with each other to say, I think it's the equator, and then she gave it. And then finally your third part. In 1889, the meter became the distance between 2 lines marked on a bar made from iridium and this other metal with symbol PT.
Platinum.
That is correct. And so they have earned all 30 points on that bonus. Let's move on to then toss-up number 2. The buzzers are cleared, and on the toss-up, every individual is obviously playing for themselves. Computation. Russell is baking 2 batches of cookies and needs to get out his chocolate chips. One batch of cookies requires 2/3 of a cup of chocolate chips, and the other batch requires 3/4 of a cup. How many total cups of chocolate chips does Russell need to make his cookies? Now on math toss-ups, you are given 10 seconds to come up with your answer. And the individuals of the team should not be conferring with each other, but doing the best that they can. And do see the disadvantage that all of these players have of not having something to write on. Time. The answer is 1 5/12 or 17/12 as the answer there. Now, since the question went dead, neither team answered correctly, we just simply move on to the next toss-ups. Toss-up 3. Crispus Attucks died in a 1770 massacre on this city's King Street. Dozens of men wearing Mohawk costumes left a meeting at this city's old...
Boston.
And what do you have green for?
Boston.
It is indeed Boston. And again, that was more than I would have read, but he got it rather early for 10 points. That would have been the end. Name this city where a famous Tea Party occurred in 1773 in the capital of Massachusetts. And so at the end, it is the easiest part of the question that you can then answer. Your bonus over here for Team Green. They get the first shot at it. For 10 points each, I'm skipping the math computation because, quite frankly, we are not prepared. But there's also math computation possibly that, again, you would probably want to have your team members with something with which they can write and paper. But we'll skip the math. For 10 points each, answer these questions about Peter Pan. Peter visits this family in Bloomsbury, listening to the bedtime stories told to Wendy, John, and Michael. You see that they are conferring, trying to come up with the answer. Captain, answer please.
No answer.
Over here, do y'all have an answer to steal?
Chamberlain.
Nope, and that was almost time. They are the Darlings. The Darlings family. Your second bonus. And so do you see the first bonus was missed by both sides. So we move on to the second bonus. And again, the team that has gotten the toss-up is the first one to get a chance at it. While at the Darlings, Peter loses this part of himself, which Wendy succeeds in reattaching.
Shadow.
That is correct for the shadow. And then part C, villains in Neverland include Captain Hook and this other pirate, Hook's boatswain, or boatswain.
Schmeat.
That is correct, it is Smee. So they have gotten 20 points on the bonus, and they have stolen no points. Had they gotten the Darlings, they would have stolen that 10 points on that bonus from them. So I think we've got the hang of it. Let's read a few more questions, and you'll see how the game obviously goes along. Toss-up number 4. This scientist allegedly caused an earthquake with his oscillating machine. He names a unit used to measure magnetic fields. He also made a namesake coil that creates. And what do you have green for?
Tesla.
It is Tesla, Nikola Tesla. And the last part of the question was for 10 points. What Croatian-born scientist's use of AC power led to a war of currents with Thomas Edison? And thus it is Tesla. Your bonus for green. Since poll taxes are illegal, people must not be charged money to do this activity. For 10 points each, name this activity, which someone might do during an election at a polling station.
Vote.
That is correct. Part 2. This amendment to the U.S. Constitution lowered the voting age to 18 years old. Captain, I need an answer.
17.
Incorrect. I bounce it over here.
24.
Answer, Captain?
20th.
It is the 26th Amendment. The 26th Amendment. So neither side, neither did they get it, nor did they steal it. Your third bonus. If you are not going to be at your polling place on Election Day, you must request one of these kinds of ballots beforehand.
Absentee.
That is correct. An absentee ballot. Let's move on to the next toss-up. We'll only read a couple more so you get the sense of how to play. Toss-up number 5. Clear? Everybody? All for themselves. You are not conferring with your teammates, but listening intently, and when you think you know the answer, buzz in and make sure that you are the one who done so. Part 5, or toss-up 5. This country is home to the winner of the 2014 Nobel Prize in Economics, Jean Tirole. These questions were written in 2015. That's why it seems a bit outdated. The questions we'll be using on Saturday were written just last year. In 2015, a magazine in this country was attacked, leading supporters to use the phrase, "Je suis Charlie." What do you get to number 1 green?
France.
It is France. And so, the last part of the question, for 10 points, name this country where the Charlie Hebdo attack happened in its capital of France. Or, no, capital of Paris, I'm sorry. Your bonus over here. This city was formerly known as Edo until Emperor Meiji moved his government here. For 10 points each, name this Asian city capital and most populous metropolitan area in the world.
Tokyo.
That is correct. And you see how his teammates, you don't have to whisper, obviously. You can outright just feel free to talk on bonuses, giving your answer to the captain. And captain can also designate, if he so wished. Tokyo designates someone so they can see how this works. Tokyo is the capital city of this country. Home also to Fukushima and Kyoto.
Designate 1. Dixon.
Japan.
That is correct. And about 60 miles from Tokyo on Honshu Island is this snow-capped peak, a volcano that last erupted in the early 1700s.
What? No.
Fuji.
Captain,
Designate Augie.
go ahead.
Fuji.
That is correct. And so they earned all 30 points. Let's do one more, and I think that that's it. Now also, the timing is 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds. And that means that you will have, at the end of the question being read, 5 seconds to ring in. They have not let the question outside of the math one get to the end as of yet. But also, when you ring in, you get 5 seconds to gather your thoughts. And again, as soon as you ring in, I start counting. So whoever rings in on this one, take your time, but make sure you get it in before you get to second number 5. Okay? Toss up 6. One coach of this sport trained on a silver arrow, though most players use firebolts or clean sweeps. One foul in this sport is called quaffle-pocking. Bulgaria lost to Ireland in this sport's World Cup. And you have red 3.
Quidditch.
That is correct. See, she had a moment that she couldn't quite come up with it. It was on the tip of her tongue, but then she was able to get it. It is Quidditch, the sport obviously from Harry Potter. Your final bonus, as it were. And I tell you what, on the first or the second or the third, give them a shot, and so you can see how bounce backs work. Your bonus. This sculpture is sometimes called the Shrine of Democracy. For 10 points each, name this South Dakota sculpture that shows 4 heads carved into a mountain.
Mount Rushmore.
That is correct. Let the third one and final one bounce so they can see how that works. Mount Rushmore was started by this sculptor who died in 1941 mid-sculpture.
Borglum.
Say it again.
Borglum.
It is Gutzon Borglum. And then part 3, which unfortunately I just have a feeling y'all will not know the answer. Borglum also worked on Stone Mountain, a monument to Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and Jefferson Davis in this U.S. state.
No answer.
You at least confer with your teammates.
Kansas.
Captain? Oh, I'm afraid it is not Kansas. Over here, can you steal?
Georgia.
It is Georgia. So, on that bonus, we have 20 gotten and 10 stolen. And thus, obviously, the scorekeeper can make sure that, obviously, they keep an accurate record. And after we get through 20 of those toss-up and bonus cycles, it is the end of the match. And whichever team has come up with the most points from those toss-up and bonuses is going to be the one to obviously come out on top. So we look very much forward to y'all coming and playing, and hopefully you will obviously know what to expect, how the game functions and goes, and the like. If you have any questions whatsoever, just let me know. We're really excited for you to come to play, and we hope to see you on November 6th. Thanks. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.